Welcome back, movie fans. I'm here today with the 50 best action movies of the 1990s. 50. So, I'm not going to go into detail about all of them because it would be a really long video if I did that, but I will talk about some. Maybe who starred in a couple, stuff like that. So, let's start it off with Death Warrant. My favorite action star from that era was Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I really enjoyed Death Warrant. So, there are a few of his on here, just so you know. Up next is Bruce Willis in Die Hard 2. Instead of the big office building, it's an airport. It's Die Hard. I don't really need to explain anything there. Alright, the next one is Nostalgia Factor. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original movie from 1990. I love Ninja Turtles. I got a Ninja Turtle tattoo. I love turtles. Up next is Charlie Sheen in The Rookie, about a cop. Don't remember a whole lot about it, but I remember when I was younger, I loved that movie. Watched it a lot, but for some reason, right at this moment, the plot escapes me. Up next is Arnold. Total Recall, where he may or may not be on Mars. We don't really know. And then he puts that thing up his nose, takes that big, it's just Total Recall. They redid it. I haven't watched the remake or anything like that because I love the original. Jean-Claude Van Damme again with Double Impact. It's one of my favorite Van Damme movies. He plays dual roles. Big Van Damme fan. Not the greatest actor, but I love the guy. Love watching his movies. Alright, up next is A Guilty Pleasure. It's one of those movies it's bad, but you like it. You know it's bad, but you like it. Mickey Rourke, Harley Davidson, and the Marlboro Man. I love that movie. I've always loved Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. It's just it's a fun movie. It is. I enjoy it a lot. Bruce Willis again. This movie could have been a Die Hard movie, but it wasn't. It was The Last Boy Scout with Bruce Willis, Damon Wayans. Bruce Willis plays like a private investigator, bodyguard. He's hired to protect Corey, Damon Wayans' girlfriend, because she knows some stuff. And it's like an action comedy. It has its funny moments, but I really love. It's one of my favorite Bruce Willis action movies. Keanu Reeves, Patrick Swayze, Point Break. Keanu Reeves is the cop. Patrick Swayze and his gang are like robbing shit. So, that was remade as well. I haven't watched it. I have no desire to. Maybe someday. But I really enjoyed Point Break. Up next is a different one. Kevin Costner. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Great cast. Like Morgan Freeman, Christian Slater, Kevin Costner. Really enjoyed Prince of Thieves. Good soundtrack as well. But haven't watched that in a long time. Don't need to talk too much. It's Robin Hood. Alright. The next one could very well be my favorite action movie of all time. Yeah, most likely. Terminator 2, Judgment Day. The sequel to the original Terminator. But this time, Arnold sent back to protect John Connor instead of kill Sarah. Linda Hamilton's back, introduces us to Edward Furlong, the great Robert Patrick as the T-1000. I love everything about Terminator 2. Up next is another sequel with Mel Gibson and Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon 3. I love the Lethal Weapon franchise. Absolutely do. Lethal Weapon 3 might be my favorite one of them, other than the original, of course. But I really enjoyed Lethal Weapon 3. Wesley Snipes in Passenger 57. He's a passenger on a plane. And that's all I'm going to tell you. Check it out. Jean-Claude Van Damme again. This time in Universal Soldier with Dolph Lundgren, where they're frozen on, like, Universal Soldier is great. Really like Universal Soldier. Another 1993 movie. Sylvester Stallone, Sandra Bullock, Wesley Snipes, Demolition Man, where Sylvester's a cop. He ends up getting frozen along with Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes somehow gets stalled out, so they unthaw Sylvester. He's the only one who knows how to deal with him, like, in the future, because they don't have, like, murders and stuff like that. So Wesley Snipes he introduces them to this, so they don't know what to do. What's the protocol? Up next is a classic, The Fugitive with Harrison Ford. It wasn't him, it's the one-armed man. I'm convinced of that. Number 34 is another one it's bad, but I love it. Also one of my favorite movie soundtracks of all time. Emilio Estevez, Cuba Gooding Jr., Stephen Dorff, Jeremy Piven, Dennis Leary. Judgment Night, where Emilio and his friends are on their way to the boxing match in an RV, end up getting lost. They witness someone getting shot by Dennis Leary, and the rest of the movie is them trying to escape. Jean-Claude Van Damme again. Told you there's a lot of Van Damme on here. Nowhere to Run from 1993. But the next one, Brandon Lee passed away making this movie. The Crow. Love The Crow. As we know, it's been remade. Haven't watched it. But The Crow is an all-time classic. Also with the great Ernie Hudson. One of my favorite Ghostbusters. Up next is another classic with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. Speed. If the bus goes below 50, they're going to blow that shit up. Love Speed. Ice-T and Surviving the Game. It's one of those movies where the rich hunt people. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence started the Bad Boys franchise with Bad Boys, where they play police officers. It's don't need to talk too much about that. Great soundtrack there too. Up next is Antonio Banderas in Desperado. Really enjoyed that a lot. Had a sequel, but I don't remember the sequel as well. But Desperado was amazing. Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis again. This may be my favorite Die Hard movie. Die Hard with a Vengeance, where he teams up with Samuel L. Jackson. They have to run around town deciphering like riddles and shit. And I love Die Hard with a Vengeance. Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson in Money Train. Woody's character decides he's going to rob the money train, and because he's desperate, even though he shouldn't be doing that. Really enjoyed that. The next movie was my introduction to Jackie Chan, Rumble in the Bronx. It's like great comedy, great action, as you know, as you should know. Jackie Chan does his own stunts. That was my introduction to him. Like, you know, he's been around for a lot longer. Jet Li up next in Black Mask. That was an amazing movie. I did not see that when it came out. I seen it a little bit later, and it blew me away. And he just plays an ordinary guy, but he has all these abilities that he hides from the people he knows, and it's amazing. John Travolta and Christian Slater in Broken Arrow from 1996. That was a fun one as well. Really like that. I really like seeing John Travolta as kind of the villain. I don't know. I love John Travolta, but I like seeing him as a villain. Alright, the next one. I don't need to say anything about the next one at all. It's Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum, Judd Hirsch is in it. Independence Day. If you're watching this video, chances are you've seen Independence Day, if you like movies and everything. Up next is Nicolas Cage in The Rock. Not the wrestler turned actor. It's about Alcatraz. Him and Sean Connery. Apparently there's a bunch of bombs planted in Alcatraz, and it's just a good, fun movie. Which leads us, again, to Nicolas Cage in Con Air, where he has the long hair and the accent. Nobody. Put Bonnie back in the box. And he gets sent to prison because he accidentally kills somebody in self-defense. His wife's pregnant. Gets out on his daughter's birthday. The plane that's flying him home ends up getting hijacked by all the criminals, led by John Malkovich. And John Cusack's in it too. Great John Cusack. Just, it's a fun movie. It's not the greatest, but I absolutely love it. Up next is Jean-Claude Van Damme again. With Dennis Rodman. Double team. Alright. The next is another one of my favorite action movies of all time. With Nicolas Cage and John Travolta. Face Off. Nicolas Cage plays Castor Troy. John Travolta's Sean Archer. Sean Archer's trying to catch Castor Troy. Castor accidentally killed John Travolta's son in the movie. And Castor ends up in a coma. He wakes up with his face gone. Because they took his face off, put it on John Travolta. So John Travolta can go to prison and get the information from Castor's brother. But I love it. It's a John Woo movie. Love it. Bruce Willis in The Jackal. Richard Gere. Bruce Willis is like a hitman, like a big known hitman. They're trying to catch him, so they recruit Richard Gere, another former hitman, to help catch him. And just good, clean fun. It's not really clean. Not clean at all, but it is fun. Alright. Another one with a great soundtrack. Will Smith in Men in Black with Tommy Lee Jones. No explanation needed for Men in Black. Up next is Val Kilmer in The Saint. It's one of those movies where I honestly am not able to tell you a lot about it, because as much as I watched it at the time, which was a lot, I don't really remember details. But it's one of my favorite Val Kilmer movies. I remember that. Up next is just a guilty pleasure with Bruce Willis, Michael Clarke Duncan, Steve Buscemi, Ben Affleck, Armageddon, where they get sent up to the asteroid to drill. And another good soundtrack, by the way. But it's Armageddon. The next one's another comedy action with Mark Wahlberg, Lou Diamond Phillips. The Big Hit. They decide to kidnap somebody and just all hell breaks loose. And Mark Wahlberg plays a criminal. He kills a lot of people. But he doesn't like people not liking him. So at one point, Lou Diamond Phillips is like, I hate to break it to you, but the families of all the people you killed probably don't like you. And it makes sense. You killed their family member. But it's one of those movies. It's just goofy. The next one, I've mentioned this next one to people and no one knows what I'm talking about. It's Patrick Swayze, Meatloaf, called Black Dog. He plays a truck driver. And they say if you're driving, you see a black dog, it's a bad omen. But I've only seen this one a couple times. It's one of those movies that is really hard to find. So if you have the opportunity to watch Black Dog with Patrick Swayze, do it. You won't regret it. Next is Wesley Snipes again. With Blade. Based on the Marvel comics, where he's a half man, half human, half vampire. He's a vampire hunter. And don't really need to talk a lot about that one. Up next is Will Smith again. An Enemy of the State. This is not one of his better known movies, but I really like this one a lot. I'm not going to tell you anything about this movie. If you haven't seen Enemy of the State yet, check it out for yourself and let me know what you think of it, because I really liked it. But a lot of people don't seem to know what it is. Christian Slater, Morgan Freeman, Hard Rain. They drive an armored car in a big rainstorm, get robbed. Christian Slater's trying to save the money, and that's all I'm going to tell you. Up next is Sean Patrick Flanery and Norman Reedus. If you don't know those two names, Norman Reedus is Daryl from The Walking Dead. Sean Patrick Flanery is Powder from the movie Powder. They play brothers called Boondock Saints. This is another movie. Like, I want to talk about these movies, but this is one here. If you have not seen Boondock Saints, definitely watch it. I fell in love with it the first time I watched it. Very well done. A lot of fun, too. Up next is Cuba Gooding Jr. and Skeet Ulrich in Chill Factor. Another one that didn't get a lot of love at the time and stuff like that. People don't seem to remember it. But I liked it a lot. It's another bomb situation. Keep the bomb cold. They end up trying to work together, and just, if you can find Chill Factor, watch it. Up next is The Corruptor with Chow Yun-fat. Big fan of his as well, actually, but don't really see him much anymore. But check out The Corruptor. He plays a cop, crooked cop. So, all right, the next one, no explanation at all for the next one. Would you take the red pill or the blue pill? It introduces us to Keanu Reeves as Neo in The Matrix. See, no introduction needed. You know The Matrix. Alright, the next is another comedy action with Ben Stiller, the late great Paul Reubens, Janeane Garofalo, great cast, mystery men. They play superheroes with like the worst powers. Like Ben Stiller's superpower is anger, but it's lame. Paul Reubens' character's superpower is flatulence. It's as ridiculous as it sounds, but it's enjoyable. Mel Gibson in Payback, which is exactly what it sounds. He's going out for revenge. And you find out it's over like $50 or something like that. There's something ridiculous. Everything he goes through. The next one is from 1998. I watched it, I swear, in the first year it came out, I watched it like a dozen times. It's called Ronin with Robert De Niro, not Downey Jr. Robert De Niro. And I don't remember much about it at all. But I loved it at the time. So I'm going to have to rewatch that and see if it actually holds up as much as it does in my head. To end off, the 50 best action movies of the 1990s. One of my favorite actors of all time, Michael J. Fox. And I believe James Woods in The Hard Way. That's right. Big Michael J. Fox fan here. But it's called The Hard Way. Check that out. These are, in my opinion, the 50 best action movies of the 1990s. And there are a lot of great action movies in the 1990s. So let me know your favorite action movies from the 1990s in the comments below. It don't have to be 50 if you don't want to. Just ones you can think of, let me know in the comments. Hit that subscribe button, come back and see me. And I'm going to put my email in the description. If you have a movie you want me to review, an actor you want me to talk about, anything movie related, send an email off and I'll do it. Until next time, everybody, thanks for watching.